Hey everybody, Christina here. So in this video, we are going to walk through the Excel Chapter 2, pause and practice, and we're only going to do 2-1 in this video. I'll have a separate video for 2-2 and 2-3. And at the end of each section, I'm going to pause for just a moment in case you want to pause this video and then catch up on the steps. Or if you're working as you go along, that's fine too. A couple of notes before we get started. Um, I'm using the instruction page that I handed out in class for the pause and practice, and that's got some of my notes, which I'll share in this video. Also, in your instructions, it indicates to save the workbook as your initials in brackets. And if you remember from our first chapter in Excel, that's not going to work. So you can just save the file with your initials as I did up at the top of my screen here, or at the top of my file. You can see that I just saved it with my initials, E2-1, and I saved it with the word start so I could have a separate file for my start file. All right. Well, again, this file is in your Blackboard course shell if you need that, and we'll go ahead and get started. So in this pause and practice, we are going to be building formulas. We will also work with absolute references, 3D references, and we'll set the order of preferences as well as name some cell ranges. I would encourage you to review the chapter part before starting this. You'll get some information on or some visual images of what we're going to be doing in this pause and practice. All right, so step number 3 is where we're going to start our instructions. And that says we're going to select the rental days sheet. And remember, our sheet names are down at the bottom. So I'm going to click on the rental days sheet. And I would encourage you, a lot of times we want to go really fast in these pause and practices, but go slow. Make sure you've clicked the right sheet tab. Make sure you've clicked the right cell tab or cell reference, because in this, you can see we're working with quite a few different sheets in this workbook. So this is a lot larger than any set of data that we've worked with before. You can totally do this though. Okay, so it says in the rental days sheet, we're going to click cell D23. Well, I'm going to go up to my name box at the top left of my screen. I'm going to type D23 and then press enter. And that jumps me down to the correct cell address. Then I'm going to start my formula by clicking the equals sign. And then it tells me to click cell D7. So we're going to get the values for Minnesota, which is MN. So I'm going to do D7. Then I'm going to do my plus sign. And I'm going to do D14. And then I'm going to, oops, not D14. That was an error. Let me go back. And if you make an error, no big deal. You can just do your backspace or you can do your undo. So we're just going to do D15, which is Minnesota. We'll do another plus sign, and we're going to grab that last Minnesota value in D19. After we've done that, we can press enter on our keyboard. And on your paper instructions that you got in class, there's a little arrow next to the 89. That's just a visual marker to help you check, okay, did I get 89 on this formula that I just built? Good, I'm good to go. Next, letter H, it says we're going to select cell D24, which is already selected for us. And we're going to do the same type of formula we just built, except for this is going to be for the Wisconsin days. So I'm just going to be adding up my Wisconsin days here. And I'm doing a plus sign after each one of them to make sure I gather them all. Okay, so once we've got those days in, we'll press enter on our keyboard, and then we get our total of 114. All right, so I'm going to pause the recording for just a moment. So if you are doing that, you can you'll get a quick little pause, and then we'll come back together to do the next step. All right, so we're going to jump into step number 4 now, and we will be creating and copying a 3D formula with relative cell references. Our instructions ask us to go and click the rental income sheet, and then we're going to click cell E5, and it asks us to type the equal sign for a formula, and we're going to click D5, which are the days of this property, the Hilltop Getaway. So we've got 48 days there. That's taking that information from cell D5. We're going to do a multiplication function, which is the asterisk. And then it tells us to go over to the rates sheet. So I'm going to click the rates sheet. And then it asks me to get cell D5 here, which is the rate for the Hilltop Getaway. And then it says to press enter. Now, check this out. If I click on cell E5, it shows me my formula up in the formula bar. And this is an example of a relative reference there. So we have our rates sheet identified with the exclamation point and then cell D5. So that lets me know the address of the data that I'm pulling in for this calculation. Next, we're going to go to letter H on our instructions. And it tells me to take the fill pointer, which if you recall, the fill pointer is that tiny little crosshair or plus sign, the black plus sign. See, you can have a white plus sign, kind of a chunky plus sign when you're out in your spreadsheet. And then if I hover over the bottom of cell E5, I get the fill pointer. And I'm just going to drag this formula down all the way to E19. And you can see when I click in the different cells, if you look up in the formula bar here, it's pulling the information from my rate sheet for me. Next, we're going to select those cells E5 all the way through E19. So we're just going to highlight those. And then we're going to go up to our number format, which is in our ribbon. And we're going to choose the currency group. So we'll choose that. And then you'll see we have all these pound signs or hashtags. Now, don't freak out. That just means that the cell is too small to fit the data. And so our instructions tell us that we need to auto fit that column. And to auto fit, if you remember, we're just going to click in between rows E. We're going to click between columns E and F. And then we're just going to, once we have that little crosshair, we're just going to double click. And when we double click, it fits or expands our cells to fit our information there. Okay, so we're going to take a quick pause. And when we come back, we'll be ready to work on number 5's instructions. All right. Well, as we before we jump over to number 5, one tiny little step that I missed in number 4 is we were to decrease the decimal place by 2. So up in your number section, we're just going to highlight E5 all the way to E19, and we're going to click that decrease decimal 2 times. So that just gives us whole dollar amounts without the decimals. Okay, now we're ready to go over to number 5, which is create and copy a 3D formula with the sum function. And our instructions tell us to click the profit and loss sheet or P&L sheet. We're going to click cell B5. You can also use your name box up at the top left if you wanted to. And our instructions give us to start building this formula, we're going to type equals, the word sum, and then our tab key. And that starts off our formula building for us. Now it tells us we're going to go to the rental income sheet. So that's down at the bottom. And we're going to select cells E5 and E6. So I'm just holding my mouse down and highlighting those and then press enter. Now, the formula on my tab completed my parentheses for me. So you can see I've got my sum of the rental income sheet, cells E5 and E6. That gives me 26,460 for those Illinois properties. All right, and that matches what's in our book or in our instructions, so we're good to go there. Now we're going to do the same thing in V6, so we'll do equals, SUM, and the tab. We're going to go to our rental income sheet, and we're going to choose E7 and E9. So let's go to rental income, and we're going to do E7 to E9. So these are the properties that are in Indiana. We're going to press enter. And then our total is 30,650. So we're good to go there. And then in letter F, it tells us in cells B7, B8, and B9, we're going to build those formulas to show the income totals for Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. So again, we'll just do equal sum tab. And we're going over to our rental income, and we're going to get our Michigan cells, which will be, let's see here. That is going to be our information there. And then we'll do the same for Minnesota. So I'm going to go over to the rental income sheet and we'll find Minnesota, enter. And then finally, we're going to do the cells for Wisconsin. And Wisconsin has only 3. Okay, so then we'll do a quick double check. Is my total, the total revenue, matching what's in my instructions page? And that's 166,990. We did it. All right. Next, I'll do a quick pause and then we'll go to step number 6. So if you're working to build those formulas on your own, I'll have a little pause here and then we'll come right back. All right, so we are going to come back with step number 6. We're going to create and copy a formula with an absolute reference. And so we're still in our profit and loss sheet, and we're going to select B14 on this sheet. So let's go into our name box up at the top and type B14, and that takes us to our registration and local fees. And then it says we're going to type NB, let's see here. Okay, perfect. All right, so our book lets us know that the 5 expenses listed in cells B14 to B18 are going to be calculated as a percentage of our total revenue. So that's what we're about to do. So we're going to click into cell, we're going to type equals in this cell, and then we're going to click cell B10. And then we're going to press the F4 key on our keyboard. Now, if you're working on a laptop, you may need to click a function key and then F4 in order to get your dollar signs here, which make this an absolute reference. So no matter what we do in our formula, the absolute reference is going to be this total revenue amount. That's not going to change no matter what else we put in our formula. So again, on a regular keyboard, you're just going to type the F4 button at the top of your keyboard. If you're on a laptop, you may have to type an FN key before you type the F4 key. Alternatively, you can just type the dollar sign in before the B and the 10. So you can manually type in your absolute reference here. Then we're going to type the asterisk for multiplication, and we're going to click cell H5 for our rate reference. Then we're going to press enter. Our total amount there is 8,767. Now, the the accounting number format is copied from cell B10. So it kept the same number formatting. Next, we're going to select cell B14, so the same one we just had. We're going to open the Format Cells group. So that's up in our ribbon, up at the top. We're going to click the drop down under Format. We're going to go all the way down to the bottom to Format Cells. Then we're going to click the number tab here. It's already clicked for me. We're going to make sure accounting is selected, and then we're just going to take the dollar sign off. So we're going to just say no symbol, and then we'll press OK. All right, so we've got that set up. Next, we're going to copy that formula in cell B14 down to the cells underneath. So to copy that cell, remember, we're going to use our fill pointer, and we're just going to drag it down, and then our cells, the formulas copy over for us. Perfect. Okay, so we'll take a quick pause and then we'll come back and we'll do step number 7 together. Okay, we're going to start on step number 7 now, and this is where we're going to name some cell ranges. And the reason that you would name cell ranges in an Excel sheet or workbook is to basically make it a little easier when you're building formulas later. So the cell ranges that we're going to do are going to help us calculate our interest before taxes, our break even. So some of those business terms that you'll be familiar with, we're about to name some cells so that that calculation is a little bit easier. So step number 7 asks us to select cells A10 and B10. So I'm going to click there and highlight those two. Now, in step B, it says to press Control and then select some additional cells. I want to share a quick tip with you here. Go ahead and drive your cursor down so that those cells, A27 and B27, are in your view before you click the Control key. If you click the Control key and then you scroll, it's going to adjust the size of the fonts on your screen. So now that I've got A27 and B27 in my view, I can hold my Control key down, select those, and then it also tells me to do the same thing for the range of A29 to B30. And so we remember when I'm selecting a range, the first letter is the first cell, and the last set in the range is my last cell. Okay, so I've got those all selected. Now I'm going to click the Create from Selection button. That's on your Formulas tab up top. So up to the top, I'm going to click my Formulas tab. And then right in the middle of my screen, under in the Defined Names section of the ribbon, I'm going to choose Create from Selection. And then I'm going to choose the left column. So what this means is I'm going to set my name up based on what the left column of these selections I just made is. So I'm going to now have a name of total expenses, income before taxes, profit margin, and so on. When I click OK, then I can go up. I'm just going to select cell A4, and then let's just choose my drop down in my name box here. So now I can see those cells that I just highlighted, my total revenue, total expenses, profit margin, and income before taxes. Those are now named as a cell range. So I can click on total expenses and it jumps me down to total expenses. All right. So now that you know how to do that, we're going to start using those ranges in a formula. As we start step number 8, you want to make sure that you have highlighted or activated cell B29. That's where we're going to continue to build this formula. So I'm going to type the equal sign and then the letters TO. So that starts my formula for me. And what I'm actually looking for is total revenue. So that's why they have me type TO. It's the first two letters in the total revenue. So I'm going to click total revenue there. And then I'm going to type a minus sign or a hyphen. And I'm going to type the word TO again. Oh, one sec. It didn't click that for me. Okay. Double click your total revenue. There we go. And then I'm going to do a minus sign. And then I'm going to do the TO again. And this time I'm going to double click total expenses. And so what I've done here is I've built a formula that my income before taxes equals my total revenue minus my total expenses. When I press enter, I'm going to get a number here. And our instructions ask us to go up to the, it's formatted as general. And what we're going to do is we're going to change our formatting on this number. And to do that, what we're going to do is just select that cell B29 again. We're going to go to the accounting number format, which if you don't remember, that's on our home tab. And in our drop down under numbers, we're going to click on accounting number format. And then as we did in the past, we're just going to decrease that decimal by 2 spots. So we're just going to make it a whole dollar amount without decimals. And then we're going to move on to letter G. So we're going to build a new formula. This formula for profit margin is going to be basically, we're going to start with our equal sign and we need our income before taxes. So I'm going to type an I in there. When I see my cell range name, I'm just going to double click it. And then after that, we need to do a division sign, which is just a little slash mark. And I'm going to type TO because now I need total revenue. So I'm going to double click total revenue. So I've built this formula that my profit margin equals my income before taxes divided by my total revenue. When I press enter, Again, this is just in a general format. And so I want to change this. My profit margin is a percentage. So I'll go up to the numbers section and I'll go down to percentage. And then we want to decrease our decimal or get it rounded to 39%. So you've just built an income before taxes and a profit margin formula. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to look at step number 9, which is how to look up an error when we have an error in our spreadsheet. And we talked a little bit in class about the trace error and how to use those formula auditing tools. So we're going to go over to the break even sheet tab. And this is step number 9. We're going to select cell B10. And then you can see that we've got this little triangle with an exclamation point in it. That's just indicating that there's an error in the formula. So we're going to point to that trace error button, and we're just going to see what does it give us as our options here. So if we hover over that little trace error button, it tells us it's really tiny language, but it says the formula in this cell refers to a range that has additional numbers adjacent to it. So that's our screen tip that we're reading there. So we're going to click that trace error to display its context menu. And so when I click that, you can see that I've got some options here. And what we want to do is we want to figure out, okay, well, how do we fix this error? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to look at trace precedence. And that is in our formulas tab. So I'll go up to the top. I'm going to click formulas. And then here under the formula auditing section, you can see that we're going to do our trace precedent. So this is going to show arrows that indicate which cells affected the value of the currently selected cell. That's a lot of words to say. When we hit this button, it's going to show us what cells were used to create that 31% total variable. So when I click that, you can see we get a little image on our screen here. And so our formula is it's the sum of B5 to B8. And you can see, we're missing this on-site visits and follow-up. We're missing some information here. So our number, Excel basically told us, hey, I really think you want to add in this other piece of information. So once we've looked at this, we've kind of looked at the tracing of it. I can click to get my context menu again, and I'm just going to say, update my formula to include those cells. I really did make that mistake and want that to be in my cell. Now, you didn't make the mistake. Obviously, we didn't build this spreadsheet, but in the real world, if I had built this one, I would want to update this formula to include those cells. That takes my total variable cost to 43%. So now you've learned, in case you get a trace error, how to look at that, how to analyze it, and how to fix it if you so desire. Okay, we are almost finished with this first pause and practice. We're on step number 10. We're going to set our mathematical order of operations. And our instructions tell us to select cell C23. And what we're about to do is figure a break-even formula for this organization. So let's click into cell C23. And then we've got our formula. So it's equals C21 divided by, and this is where we're going to do that mathematical operation. We're going to divide by 1 minus B10. So that's just your break-even analysis, which is my fixed costs divided by 1 minus my variable cost percentage. I'm going to close that parenthesis and then press enter. And it gives us $52,061.67. So just doing a quick check mark with letter E, my figure matches what it's supposed to. And then we're going to do like we have before, we're going to decrease the decimals to 2. So that's on our home tab and then our numbers category. Just make sure you've selected that cell and we're going to delete those 2 decimal spaces. And the next thing on letter G, this is just an informational piece for you. We're going to look at showing the formulas. And sometimes when you're working on spreadsheets, it's a good idea to just take a look at all of your formulas. And so from our formulas tab, we can click on show formulas here in the formula auditing group. So that's over a little bit to the right of your ribbon. So when we click show formulas, it just basically highlights every formula that's in our spreadsheet so that we can look at it and make sure it's what we intended. You can click show formulas again to take you back to your normal view, and it doesn't change any of your formatting there. Now, number 11 tells us press Control Home, takes us back to the top of the spreadsheet and to save our file. And we have wrapped up the pause and practice for Excel Chapter 2, Pause and Practice 2-1. Okay, I'll be back with a video for the next pause and practice in just a bit.